host, Daniel Bryant. Today on the episode of the Women of Excellence series, we have a special guest with us, Miss Shawnya Spruill. She'll be giving insight on stress. Miss Shawnya Spruill is a school administrator, along with being the owner and creator of Perfect Reflections Coaching and Development. So without further ado, let's add her to the call. Hey, Miss Shawnya Spruill, it's good to see you. Thankful for you to be on this podcast today, and I can't wait for all the knowledge you're going to give us.
Thank you so much for the invite, Daniel. I really appreciate you acknowledging me on your Women of Excellence series.
Great. So with this episode, I have a few questions for you that I want to get into a little bit about your educational background and going into about your business. And then I want you to give a little advice to all of my viewers about, what your business does. So my first question is going to go into a little bit about your background with college. So with it being that springtime, that March, April range, this is nationally known as the time where all high school seniors are trying to make the decision where they're going to spend their next 4, 2, or however many years for college. So I want you to give the viewers a little insight on what determined your college career, and then how did you choose your major with being an education field of study?
Well, I have to be honest with you, Daniel. In my household growing up, it was not if you're going to school, it was where. But to be honest, I was excited about making a choice about college. I grew up in a small town in eastern North Carolina, and I was ready to go out and have some new adventures. When I was applying to colleges, I really only applied to two. I applied to a big university and a medium-sized university. And I ultimately ended up choosing the medium-sized university, which was UNCG, because they had the field of studies that I was interested in, which was business and finances and education. And I felt like, the smaller environment would be a little bit better for a girl who came from a small town. My first love was business and finance, but I ultimately ended up choosing to go into education because I had a teacher in elementary school who she not only taught me the academics, she was interested in me as a student and as a budding young Black girl. She would often pull me to the side and encourage me about my academics to continue to do well. She expressed how she trusted me. She would say, well, I want you to represent our class on awards day to present this. And she just encouraged me to continue to do my very best. She poured into me as a person, which helped me in middle school and high school. And so when I chose to go into business education, it was the perfect match of me having my love for business and finances, but also working with youth and being encouraging to them as she was to me. And so that played a big role in what I chose to do with the rest of my life.
I think that's amazing that you used a mentor to kind of help guide you, or like a teacher, for example, to be able to guide you into, helping figure out what you wanted to do in life. And then choosing your college, with that being UNCG, finding that perfect fit for you, and then understanding, okay, what are some things that I enjoy doing, business and financing, and saying, hey, I can get a major in this, and then this can push me even more into my purpose. So I think those are all great determining factors for all college students and future college students to decide on when they're choosing that next step for them. So my next question goes in a little bit about that, about how that teacher helped you out. And that goes to, you worked in plenty counties, big and small, as a teacher and administrator. So I want you just to go into a little bit about your passion for education, and then a little bit about, that empowering the next generation. So how you feel like, being an educator and an administrator, how that can help empower the next youth.
Well, as a classroom teacher, I was really excited about being able to help my students develop a skill set for what they needed to help them through the remainder of high school and any type of post-secondary education, whether it would just be going into the workforce, military, or whatever, I would teach them things like balancing a checkbook, accounting, entrepreneurship. I also taught them about word processing, spreadsheets, and databases. And so these were things that they could use to help them in any field that they went into. And I just was happy that I was able to give them something concrete that they could use. And so my students were always like, oh, Miss Spruill, we can use this here, we can use this there. And I told my mom about what we learned today about balancing checkbooks. I asked my mom, did we have a budget? So as a teacher, those types of things warmed my heart. But when I moved into being an administrator, my conversation with my students changed. Unfortunately, kids do get sent to me for disciplinary reasons, and we handle that issue, but I always talk to them about what are your next steps? What do you want to do after you graduate from high school? And I always use the term after you graduate because my expectation of all of my students is that you will graduate from high school. What you do after that is up to you. I always encourage them to find a job or a career, something that's going to make them happy, not to be so concerned about making all of the money, but find a career path in whatever you do that's going to make you happy in your heart. And not, every day you get up, I got to go to this job, but find something that's going to make you happy. And that makes you motivated to get up and go to work every day.
I think that's amazing. And I want to give a quick shout out to all of our administrators and all of our teachers and educators of all sorts. I want to give a quick shout out because she said a very special thing where she said that, her main focus was to the growth of that student, not so much as, what he can put on a piece of paper or what the book tells you about that student, but more about what can he be, what's his potential. And I think when we, allocate time and energy as educators and as teachers, if we allocate that, that energy into his growth and his potential, that's where he'll be able to maximize his true self or his me. And so I think it's very important, and I'm very thankful for teachers and educators and administrators just like you that have that type of thinking, that it's important to the growth of that student and what he can be instead of what a piece of paper says he is and what a test says he is. And I think that's very important. I'm glad you pointed that out through your transition from being a teacher and an administrator. So that goes to that kind of goes into my next question also, where you talk about how you want to empower the youth by, targeting their growth. And that goes into your business. You're the founder and creator of Perfect Reflections Coaching and Development. So I want you just to tell the viewers a little bit about how that came about and what are the services that you provide.
Okay, well, I will be honest with you, Daniel. Coaching has really been a great fit for my life. Throughout my career in education in the past 28 years, being a teacher and sometimes a consultant, and I've been an academic coach, going into personal development coaching just seems like a natural next step. And what I do in my coaching business, my job is to help other people find their superpower, right? Because sometimes we don't access our gifts and talents. Sometimes we're not sure of our purpose. Sometimes we're not sure how to live our best life. And so I work along with my clients to uncover whatever they're ready to uncover, which might be their purpose, which might be how to have healthy relationships with people around them. And the best part about being a coach is watching my clients light up when they figure out, what are my next steps? What is my purpose? Or when they get clarity about something, because I believe that clarity builds confidence. If you're clear about what you're supposed to do, you can go do it with great confidence. So, working with my clients, and they come back to me and say, this is what I've accomplished, and this is how I'm feeling, this is how I want to live my best life. That has been really rewarding to me, and I'm excited to continue to build my business over the next couple of years.
That's amazing, and I'm thankful to me being a personal development business, also targeting people's need or their purpose. It's always something in me that wants to surround myself around other people that have that same mission of helping others and pointing into others to help them find themselves. So I always try to make it my mission to surround myself around business owners and people that love to pour into others, because that's part of my empowerment, surrounding myself and allowing, just things to be put into my ears, and things that I can see, things that they're going to add power to me. So those are always things that I look to do, and I'm very thankful to be able to be alongside of what you're doing and being able to learn from you. And so that moves me to my next question also. When I talk about adversity and I talk about some of the things that you use to how to cope with adversity, I want you just to give the viewers a little bit about your college adversity, things that you went through in college and how you were able to persevere and continue to press forward to find your purpose.
Well, my college was about 3.5 hours away from my hometown. So when I got there, there wasn't a lot of running back and forth home when I got homesick or when I needed something. But one of the major obstacles I ran into when I was in college is at the end of each semester, after things were paid out, I always had a balance. And of course, when you're in college, they want you to pay that balance before you begin your classes for the next semester. And so what I realized was I had to work more than what I was working. I was already working at the Career Planning and Placement Center on campus, but then I got a job at the State Employees Credit Union. And I made all my classes before 12 o'clock, right? So that I would have time to work both jobs. But I also ended up getting a job in telemarketing on various weekends to add more money to my savings so that I could pay that bill at the end of each semester. But I found that I was struggling. And so I had to put a plan in place to be able to keep those two jobs, plus that sometime third job, but yet continue to stay in school. So what I did, Daniel, was I cut back on my classes. I was still a full-time student, and that allowed me to work those jobs and still have time for my studies, right? But I also made a deal with the manager at the credit union that if I stayed in Greensboro in the summer, he would allow me to continue to work at the credit union. And so I ended up going to summer school every year that I was in college, because my ultimate goal was to graduate in 4 years, right? So I sacrificed social time. I sacrificed having some good times so that I could work, save my money, and pay that bill at the end of every semester. Because honestly, going back home wasn't a choice for me at that time. I was determined and I was extremely motivated to stay in school and to finish on time. That was the goal that I set for myself. And I'll be honest, when I look at that degree, I think back to all of the hard work that I put in to get that degree, because that was a springboard for so many other things that opened up for me in my life, having that 4-year degree from UNCG. It was hard work, but I earned it, and I love it. I love those times that I had in school, and it made me a better person. It made me appreciate that degree.
I love that. And the one thing that I pulled when you were talking, the one thing that I pulled that from that was, how you said that your adversity, it built your character. It helped build you. And sometimes when we're going through, we think that our adversity is something that's just supposed to keep on pulling down at us, but it's also a transition. It's our transition to be able to grow and become stronger. And so I liked how you said you didn't just let your struggles with, the financial and having to give up things and having to work those jobs, you didn't allow that just to pull you down and say, well, this is what I got to do. You allowed it to grow you and make you stronger. And it built your character to the point where now you look at that degree on the wall and it means something. You don't want just to look at that piece of paper and say, oh, well, I took 4 years to do it, and hey, I just did it. You want that to mean something. And every time you look at that, you see the power, you see the sweat, you see the tears, you see I gave up that party, I gave up hanging out with my friends. And you see all that, and now you see your maturation process to where you're at now. And then that's fulfilling, to be able to know that, hey, look what I can do when I put my mind and I put my actions to this. When I want to do something and I put my determination to it, look what I can accomplish. When the odds were stacked against me, look what I can accomplish. So that's what I pulled from what you just said in your story, and that's very, very powerful. And I hope that all the listeners and the viewers was able to pull something powerful from that. That goes into my next question, and I want to talk about people facing similar problems. So when people are facing adversity, and you have your business, Perfect Reflections So I want you just to give us a little insight on what are some of the strategies or advice that you use that you give your clients to be able to cope with the stresses of life. We all deal with stress, whether that be health, family, spiritual life stresses. It can be anything. And so I just want you just to give our viewers a little, advice or strategies to cope with that.
Well, definitely one of the things that I talk with my clients about is how we react to what is going on around us. We talk about what is in your circle of control. Unfortunately, last year, all of us were thrown into trying to cope with a pandemic, something we've never dealt with before. And that caused a lot of different types of stressors on people. And so with some of my clients, what about this can you control? We know that we couldn't control certain things, but how can you de-stress, look around you, and live in a world of possibility? Because living in a pandemic and other regular life stresses, sometimes people live in a world of what is not possible. But when we shift our mindset into possibilities, we begin to see, I can do A, I can do B, I can do C. These are the things that are possible in my life. So when your attitude about what you can do changes, your actions change. And when your actions change, you begin to put movement to create positive things in your life. And granted, I understand the everyday stresses of trying to keep a roof over your head and food on the table and the lights on. Your basic needs have to be met, right? Before you can begin to live in these grand possibilities. But I always stress to people, look at what you can control. There are things that you cannot touch. Worry about what you can do. And just sometimes the basic things of meditation, clearing your thoughts and your mind so that you can allow for positivity to reside there. That's really important when people get real tight and get uptight about what they can't and can't control. So that we start with those basic things and then we build from there so that my clients can live in what is possible in my life as opposed to, nah, that's not possible. I can't do it. So when their attitude changes, their actions changes, and then things begin to open up in their lives. And it's not always easy. It takes work. It takes mental work to stand in a space of possibility. And it's wonderful to see people grow in that way.
That is amazing. And, as you're giving advice to all of my viewers, I'm taking notes too. Guys, I have my Me pens, so y'all stay tuned. Y'all can buy some of those very, very soon. Quick shout out to that. But I want to just highlight some of the things that you've done and some of the notes that I was taking. You talked about living in possibilities. And that's very, very powerful. And I wrote that down because I think sometimes when we're going through stress and we're going through adversity, we live in things that are not possible. We don't understand, the possibilities of the positive things, or those aren't at the front door. We put those on the back burner because we feel like, it's impossible, or those things, I can't do it. And so then we put those things that, are negative and stress and fear, and those things that are not building to us, we put those at the forefront, and that's what begins to, allow stress to be overwhelming. And so I think that's very powerful how you said, live in the possibilities, having that growth mindset, telling yourself that, well, no, we can do this. We can accomplish this. We can be successful. And I think that's very, very great. A scripture that I like to read when I'm thinking about, how I can work on myself or what I can control is Proverbs 18:21, when it talks about how the power of life and death is in the tongue. And so that's kind of, that scripture just speaks to about, that's what you can control. You can control what you speak over your situation. And earlier when you talked about having those negative conversations, what you speak over your life and what you speak over your situation is so powerful, because it can sometimes determine the outcome of your situation. So I just encourage everyone watching that you got something very powerful from that, and that you understand, that what you say over your situations can determine, the outcome. So just continue to have that growth mindset, what you think, and then, watch the words that you say over it, saying that I can accomplish, I can do this, I will do this, instead of saying I can't, I won't, things like that. It can make a big difference. So, Ms. Shawnya Spruill, if you want to elaborate a little bit more, anything on your business, feel free. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. For anyone who is interested in coaching or personal development, my contact information is in the ticker below. You can give me a call and schedule a free appointment for a discovery call, and we can talk about, what you want for your life, and maybe we can work together to get you on that path. I'm excited to work with people, to help them live their best life and to find that superpower, and that really excites me. And thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you giving me time on your show.
Oh, no problem at all. This was a blessing to me. Like I said, I was taking notes, and like I said, if you haven't, to all my viewers, if you weren't inspired or empowered by this and ready to, jump at that next goal that you have for your life, I don't know what can inspire you. So I want you just to, rewatch this, watch it again, and then watch it another time, so you can, get everything that she said, because it was very, very powerful. Remember, living in your possibilities, understanding that, don't have those negative conversations, controlling what you can control. All those things are very, very powerful to you being able to unlock who you are. So I just want to thank Miss Shawnya Spruill for being a guest on this platform. I want to say thank you and well wishes to your business, and I pray for growth and blessings upon that. So with further ado, I want to close out. Guys, if you weren't inspired, I don't know what will inspire you. This was very, very powerful, and I thank Ms. Shawnya Spruill for coming on the show. Guys, if you want to get in contact with her, all her information is in the ticker below, and along with that, I will put all of her information in the description box. This is very, very powerful, and I thank her very, very much. Along with that, a little bit about some more Me news coming up. I do have, for all my HBCU students, I do have an open scholarship called the Me HBCU Scholarship. It is in honor of my late grandmother, Ruth Bailey Bryant. She was an educator, and she was a student at Shaw University along with being at Central. So I just want you guys to go to my website, www.findourme.com. That's www.findourme.com. And you can look at all the eligibilities and all of the requirements in the cover page that you have to fill out, and go apply to that scholarship. And like always, have a neat day, and don't forget, stay motivated and stay empowered.